Ready to sign.
I'm calling to order the Tilton Budget Committee meeting for November 1st, 2017. Happy November 1st, everyone. First order of business are the meeting minutes. So if you haven't had a chance to review them, please do at this moment.
Sample. All those little kids are out collecting and walking down to the main street in their costumes as teachers. Great. They had a police escort.
All right, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, I make a motion to accept the Tilton Budget Committee minute meetings of October 25th, 2017 as written.
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So be it. All right, there were some questions from on Genesis, and I spoke with Genesis, and I wanted to give you an update on those. First of all, transportation, the second bus will be available to Tilton residents, so they need to talk with their caseworker if they need it, and appropriate arrangements will be made for them to get the transportation. And the building, they plan to have one building for about, I think since the 80s. And they finally were able to do that this year, so everything will be consolidated into one building, which will save them because they don't have to transport people who may be there for a meeting with the psychologist and another meeting with the physician. They will all be able to do it in one location, which is going to save both on the patient's wear and tear and also on the budget. And the third question was on the grant that was received. It's available to all the counties that they service. So if they have a crisis in Belknap County and Tilton's the town where it's had, that will be available to them. Okay? The other thing that came up was I had occasion last Thursday after our meeting to talk with Gail Lyman from CAP on another matter. And in talking with her, I said, oh, by the way, Gail, I've never known you in all the years I've been on the budget committee not to show up for the budget presentation. And yesterday you didn't show up. And she said, Jane, I never received a notice about the meeting. And she said she went back and looked and she had received no notice whatsoever. So I talked to Johanna and she was going to resend that request. And I said, since that happened with them, I want to make sure the others didn't fall through the cracks. So Johanna was going to follow up on that. Did that get done, Johanna?
It did.
Okay.
It did. The only one that I was not able to reach is the Red Cross.
Okay. All right, and that's the one that has consistently not showed up. But the other two have always showed up. I've never not known them not to. And that's why I did mention it to Gail. And as I say, she said she never received notice, and she said, I really didn't think anything because in the past I've often made my presentation in the month of November, so I just figured that's when I would be scheduled and I would hear. So as long as that's cleared up. And what did you do? Did you reschedule them for another date?
Yeah, CAP is going to be on November 15th. New Beginnings will be November 15th, and CASA will be November 29th.
November 29th?
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
New Beginnings
Yeah.
is November 15th, and Community Action is November 15th.
Okay, I got that one. All right. Thank you. Thank you for doing that, Johanna.
Who's on the 29th?
Tasa? Was everybody in agreement with that? I just want to make sure that no one felt, because as I say, it's very unusual for, I think in the past we've had CASA not show up, but they've showed up the last 2 years, and I know Gail would not, that's not in, she's never not showed up in all the years I've been, I think like 7 or 8 years I've been on the Budget Committee. Okay, and the other thing I have, since we have a few minutes, is I had Johanna print out a copy of the Town of Tilton 2017 rate guide. And please review this, because this is one of the things I know that Wayne had mentioned, the fact that our tax rate was going up this year. It's going up 73 cents. So, from last year's. And this gives you a breakdown. This is posted on our website. And on the second page, you'll see a breakdown of the town, the county's rate, the school, local school, the school, state, and the fire district. And as you can see, the bulk of what has gone up considerably is the school tax rate. I'd encourage anybody, and these are viewers as well as anyone who's here tonight, to attend the district meeting, which will be held in the spring after our town meeting. But I would think it would behoove everyone to do that so that you will see exactly what's going into things. Of course, there's a union contract with salaries, so that always has a major impact on it. But there are other things as well. Any comments or questions?
What did they say about closing the satellite store, satellite office for Genesis?
They're going to be closing those.
So that will
It'll
be,
just be the one. It'll be just the one location.
Jane, since we have a few minutes, I would like to take the motion that I made off the table last week
Okay.
with Genesis, and with John's permission, or John's okay, I'd like to withdraw that motion. John, you seconded?
sure, yes.
So I would consider withdrawing the motion, and John's considering withdrawing the second and coming together with another motion.
Okay.
Was the motion voted on and passed?
No, we tabled it.
We tabled it, so I would like to make a new motion regards to the funding of Genesis, that we fund them for the level amount that they had last year, which is $3,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
What was it, $2,000?
3.
Discussion?
That's what it was last year.
Gonna have any
Is
discussion?
there going to be a discussion about that?
John looks pensive
That
today.
I know, John. I've had trouble with Genesis in the past. Their level of service, they've been disjointed, disconnected, not responsive to the needs of the town of Tilton. In some of my experiences, I know some good things, but I also know some Tilton residents that drew up the short end of the stick with Genesis and their services. I listened to the woman, that I forget her name, and I'm sorry about that, that came, that she's new, the last year, and the numbers she had indicate they have been more responsive. Heather indicates they have been more responsive. Nobody's perfect, and I understand that, but they're making strides, and I think they provide a valuable service.
And I will add my 2 cents to that. In the past, and as Joe noted, we've all talked about what happened in the past with Genesis. My experience with them is that when we have called them, if there's been an issue, they have been extremely responsive. In the last 2 years that I know of, which are the years I've had the most contact with them. And they have certainly improved those services that they had issues with in the past.
My problem is this has happened before, and why should you have to call them to resolve issues that they have? You said you had to call them and they had to resolve them.
I did call someone because there was one person that I know who worked with Genesis, and he was having problems with his caseworker. That was one caseworker and one person. And I think based on the number of people they serve in the community, that's an isolated case. And I think you could have that probably even with our own welfare department. We'll have people who complain. So I don't think, in view of one complaint that they responded to immediately, that should be considered poor service.
There's a whole lot less complaints now than there used to be, from what I can see.
And another concern of mine is that their needs that they have had for seniors in this community is up 34%, and I think that's going to increase. And I think the fact that they've responded to those and that they're making concessions and making changes based on that need is a good thing. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
And there's one abstention. Okay.
Renee,
Hi.
welcome.
Welcome. Come on up and join us.
Okay, thank you very much.
If you would sign in there, please.
Okay,
We're glad you're here.
well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Always a pleasure.
Yes,
Yes, it is. It's always a pleasure to come to the town of Tilton. And I have to say right off the bat that Franklin VNA and Hospice appreciates all of the support that we receive from the town of Tilton.
And we appreciate all the services the town of Tilton receives too, believe me.
I know, and you've always been so gracious in supporting us. It's heartfelt, it's heartwarming.
And I think there are a lot of people around this table who've had use of your services as well.
I was
At
just-
least I know 2 of us who have.
I was going to mention that.
Not one of them make it 3.
Literally, they have kept me alive, contrary to my desires at times.
Yeah.
And have put up with some foolishness, which is good.
And I think one of the good things I can say about the Franklin VNA is that I know a lot of people who are automatically assigned another agency, a VNA, but in another location. I happen to be one of those. And we requested Franklin VNA, and you responded to our request. So I think that's a good thing.
Oh, good. For us, community is really what it's all about. We want to be, the choice agency, and many of our employees work or reside in Tilton, Franklin, Belmont, the surrounding communities, and that is what it's truly all about.
And again, I commend you because you have limited facilities to work with. Franklin Regional Hospital is a good hospital. They're very limited in the scope of activities that they can provide. I have made many trips from Franklin to Concord without any choice in the matter. And Concord always wants to use Concord VNA. We have changed their minds, so much so that they have, at least with cardiac patients, they're looking more at the community, but with that limited resource, if Franklin ever gets off their duff and puts the cardiac unit together, it would be nice.
One thing I'd like to add too that some of you may not know is that the Franklin VNA does come to the Tilton Senior Center, and they provide foot care. They do blood pressure readings. They do our flu shots there so that the seniors don't have to travel in order to get those, and we appreciate that too. So with that, I'll turn it over and you can make your presentation.
Okay, so this year we've noticed that we have, or our numbers indicate that we have had a 27% increase over the prior year's encounters with Tilton residents. We are working to expand our involvement in the area of Tilton. We have recently worked with the Tilton Resource Center for their new baby bags that they are putting together. We donated all of the bedtime books to them, and this is a nice high quality bag that they are giving to the new moms. And you know, not only are we working with the new moms with substance use disorders, but we're trying to give these babies, you know, a new start here in our community. We've also increased our presence in that we have done some caregiver education in the town with the caregiver support group from the Tilton Northfield Congregational Church. We will be having our annual gathering of music here in Tilton on November 12th, and we invite you all to come. That is also at the church downtown, the Congregational Church. So this year, because of our increase in services that we've provided, we're also asking for a slight increase in funding. So in the amount, it's on a per capita basis, and it's a 20 cent increase per capita that we are requesting. Tilton has always been, you know, very generous with us, and we appreciate that, and we'll just ask you to consider just a
20
little
cents
more.
per capita, what is that in real money?
Three, so, oh, what is it in real money? Okay, so we're basing that on a population of 3,592, which was the census. I think it's, honestly, I don't remember exactly what Tilton did last year. I think it was 11,900. Is that right?
Yeah.
Colleen, do you have that?
I do have that.
11,900.
For the last 3 years, it's been 11,883, exactly.
Okay, 11,883. So this year we're asking for 12,572. So what are we looking at? Less than $1,000 increase for an increase of 27%.
$750, $800.
Yep. So,
By the way, anybody, there was a very good article in today's Laconia Sun on the program that, the book donation program that VNA did for the Resource Center. You might want to read that.
And from personal experience, cases that they've been handling have been much more complicated than they were a couple of years ago, and that the patients have more complicated issues to deal with than it was back. I started with blood pressure, ended up with pacemaker, defibrillator, which they had to provide services for, and also the blood center routine.
the anticoagulants, yes.
Coagulants, which any one of them could have killed me. But they're becoming more complicated, and the needs of our service area are becoming more complicated.
They are becoming more complicated. We see people being discharged from the hospital, you know, very quickly after, you know, being in for a very complicated issue, and it's a couple of days later, and okay, bye-bye, you're going home. And to be able to coordinate that care and provide the services that they need so that they can remain in their home and so that they can be safe, so that their medical needs can be met. And I mean, we're just talking basic safety. You know, we're not talking about these plans that, you know, are giving them more than what they, you know, need or what they deserve. It's just basic safety.
And even complicated procedures like angioplasty, hospitals now want patients out by the next day. So you're going in, having a stent put in, and the next morning you're home with home care.
Right.
Are you still doing occupational therapy and
Oh,
physical
absolutely.
therapy? and-
Occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, home health aides, homemakers, nurses,
Physical therapy.
physical therapy, yeah.
Do you provide any kind of companion service?
We do. We have a homemaker program. It's pretty much people qualify. Well, there's some private chore service that we call it, and people go in, and it's a nice program to help people, seniors, basically remain in their homes. People that are not able to do their own housework, the vacuuming, the kind of heavy housework that elderly people may not necessarily even think about anymore. And then we also work with the state, with the Bureau of Elderly and Adult Services to provide care for people, homemaking care, meals, a little light housekeeping, grocery shopping, laundry. All of these things, all of those services help these people remain in their homes, and I'll tell you, it's a lot more cost effective for all of us taxpayers to support that versus someone being in a facility where the costs are just, astronomical. So,
I know that last year we talked about impact of changes in the Affordable Care Act. What do you anticipate being issues with the changes that are being talked about at the present time with the Affordable Care Act?
So the changes, I mean, we all know that the current administration wants to do away with the Affordable Care Act. If they do that, then you have more than thousands of people that will be uninsured and unable to receive services from healthcare services in general. For us, whenever we see a client that is from or that has insurance through the exchange or the Affordable Care Act, it's usually at a Medicaid rate, which does not cover the cost of providing the services. However, we do provide those services regardless of someone's ability to pay and regardless of the fact that we lose money when we provide those services. And as a nonprofit agency, it's our goal to provide the services. We have a mission that we're trying to accomplish. We're not trying to make money, but we do need to remain viable in order to be able to provide the services to our communities. Did that answer your question? Somewhat?
Somewhat. I guess what I'm saying is the money will have to come from somewhere because you're not going to say we're not going to provide you the service.
That's right.
And so that it could impact the communities who use your services in the future.
It most
All right,
definitely.
and that's the point I wanted to get across. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I noticed here in your financial statements that you're gonna run a deficit of how much?
For 18, it's 161,821.
Yeah.
It was more in 17.
How do you make up for that shortfall?
So we are really working to maybe apply for more grants. And you know, that's a labor-intensive project. It's one thing when you get reimbursed for your services from an insurance company if they pay you, you know, a fair wage, you know, just to cover your costs. But when you have to employ people to write for grant funding, it's another item. So, so we do depend on appropriations from the towns that we serve and the counties, and you know, we do the best we can. It's not easy, you know.
And I think we appreciate that, and that's what amazes me with the quality of service you give in spite of that.
That's why when she said they don't make money, they don't.
No, I
No,
don't.
no, we really don't.
Not at all.
I have a question on the balance sheet. What's your asset called unrestricted?
At the end,
Yeah, it's a huge increase from the prior year. That's what's holding the difference on your balance sheet. You have increase in assets and decrease in liabilities, and this unrestricted is like crazy.
unrestricted is our, everything's really unrestricted. I can't speak a lot to the 2016 number just because I started in 2017.
Okay.
But I've looked at these numbers, and the big difference is that, I'm sorry, it's not that that's the big difference, but unrestricted,
150,000.
right. Unrestricted just simply means there's no hold on that money for any particular reason. For example, if we get a memorial gift and somebody wants to pay for a certain program, that's restricted money. We can only use that money for, but we don't get restricted gifts usually, so everything's unrestricted.
Well, this is liabilities though, so it's not money coming in.
No, but we did do very well on our investments last
Yeah.
year, and that's probably the biggest part of that, the biggest chunk of that. And that would have changed our,
So these unrestricted liabilities are just general bills that come in, or?
the unrestricted,
The
That's
liabilities,
just our-
those are the ones you're
yeah.
talking about.
yeah, that's just our net fund, like what we've, right, what we have for assets and what we've made for money over the years, parks in there, so it goes slowly. Each year it's gonna be a little bit more up, but I think that the reason there's such a jump this time was because last year's investments did pretty well. But we can't always count on that either, so
Right.
we never count on the investment money, so.
So the agency does have funds, you know, has a, that we call an endowment. Okay, so, and those are in investments, and, you know, they are intended to be utilized to provide services to our communities. You know, is it a lot of money? It may look like a lot of money on paper. Is it actually a lot of money when it comes to providing services to the community? No. And if we use that up, you know, how long could we
Maybe 2
go?
years.
2 years, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a huge
Yeah. I
endowment.
mean, Medicare continues to reduce their reimbursement to home health. The most recent figures are that in 2019 that they're going to be decreasing home health payments by $1 billion. So it's you know, it's not a pretty picture looking forward. It really isn't.
So generically speaking, that is to say what? Out of your revenue, this is already gonna be allotted.
I'm all set.
Arthur, any questions? Comments?
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Welcome.
And thank you for your service to the community.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work.
Johanna, I have a question for you. In 2016, this is 11,784, but it's under requests. Did we give 11,883 like 17? Do you know?
We gave what they asked for.
Okay, so 11, yeah, got less than.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. And we're right on time for the Hall Memorial Library.
We're having it last minute.
I see.
Hackathon.
But I don't know. Yeah, for.
Oh, yes.
Hmm? Well, this ain't, no. They're
Oh,
all
yeah,
signed.
they did.
All closed out. I'm getting ready to start going after them on social media. They should change their nickname. Only comes out for the devilish.
They're gonna give the service they're funded for. Can you do? The need increases, but the
No, not,
money
they're
dries up.
supposed to be separate and independent of. The hospital gets no sign
Hi.
of VNA. And on Concord.
If you would please sign in.
It's all business.
Yes, so I have, these two handouts, and the handouts, and then some brochures. We just updated, I'll bring these over here from
About the one I had all my books on.
every year.
What, you get notes?
You gonna steal it back?
Let's see what
No,
it's
the front, did you take it off the top? I had a,
He did.
I took mine off the phone.
I'll use Stephanie's, that's mine.
Oh, did you put your notes on the,
This one says something about 4.5 on the back.
Yes, that was, a late addition.
We promise to give it back if you'd like.
None of us have it.
I don't have it. Do you have it, Steve?
He was the first one, but it's not written on his either.
Nothing written on mine. It's something over here, percentage.
Well, welcome.
We all have.
Hi, thank you. So I am Jennifer Davis, and I'm the director of Hall Memorial Library. This is Kathy Mitchell. She is the president of the board of directors, and you probably all know her because she's fantastic.
Never saw it.
What?
And this is Stephanie Gianovici.
Giovannucci.
Do you have any?
I'm just going to have you write your name down because
Okay.
I get it wrong every time.
Hi, Stephanie.
And she is our bookkeeper, and we are here to talk about Hall Memorial Library, obviously. So we're actually having a bumper week at the library. We've been very, very, very busy because the storm has knocked out power and internet to so many people. And we were lucky, and we were very, very fortunate that that didn't happen to us. So we've been pretty busy. We're usually busy anyway, and it's even more so. So it's been quite a boon for library services. We've had a lot of parents, of course, who just want to get out of their house, but we've had a lot of business people because it's been end of the month. Who've had to come in order to use our Wi-Fi to send out their billing. So we've had a lot of business people. I just put some interesting statistics. These are the same ones that I provided for you all last year at the bottom. But a couple of interesting fun facts about the library. We are a traditional library, of course, but we do other great things as well. In September, we took part in the Granite State Library Card Challenge, and we raised our patronage by 91 new cards, which is significant. We normally have around 25 maybe on a good month, sometimes more. So we came in 5th in the state for raising our new cards per capita, so it was kind of exciting, and we're hoping to do more outreach. We are participating in a program called New Hampshire 1000 Books Before Kindergarten because research has shown that kids learn to read independently after they've been read to from 1,000 books. So we have that program that's going on. Our children's librarian, Miss Julie, is very, very good at what she does. She runs a fantastic story time if any of you have kids or grandkids or other little people in your life, and would like to bring them, you should, because it's pretty fun. She uses this Every Child Ready to Read method that includes talk, read, write, and play. And she does a really good job with it. Lots of rhymes, lots of flannel boards, things that look like a lot of fun, but actually get kids to increase their vocabulary and head them in the right direction for reading. We had 100 kids sign up for our children's summer reading program. We do average 30 programs a month on our $1,100 a year budget for programming. Already this year we've been into all of the schools, and including the Tilton School and the ARC, in order to do some outreach and get kids more interested in the library, start getting library cards out to kids who can sign up for them independently and get the information out to their parents. And then, well, just a plug, if any of you are readers, we do have our book sale that's coming up the first full week of November, so that'll be next week. And some of our discards we have donated to the Youth Assistance Program and also to the PEMI Youth Center so that we can get books out to kids who don't have them. So those are just some of the things that I put on there, and that's in addition to checking out books and DVDs and audiobooks and showing people how to use their devices. We have a Tech Tuesday program every month, but every week, but it's also a Tech Wednesday and a Tech Thursday, so we can show people how to use some of their computers and their devices. We have a really active Spanish group on Tuesdays, and sewing group, a knitting group, who are all very active community members and come in. We have a large population of people who come in who have direct service providers that are either one-on-one or 1-to-2 or 1-to-3. So we have a pretty large population that wouldn't necessarily be reflected in all of our numbers quantitatively, but definitely even Wednesday mornings we are the most busy because there's a woman who tutors in the library for us for people who have DSPs, and so you can see what a large population that we serve. So when it comes down to the money, if you would like to flip to the back page, the second page that I included is a list of the programs that we're doing for the month of November. It's a little less so this month because we have our biannual book sale that will be happening, so that takes up a whole week. But on the back page is our budget request. It is different from the one that I had included because we did some adjustments on the payroll, and then our medical and dental benefits are not set. They won't be set until December, but they told me to expect a 4.5% increase. So that changes our request today to $128,450.50 from each town. Did I say that right? 100. Say that again.
Northfield's a little bit more.
How much again is from Tilton?
No, that should be equal.
28. That's 855.
It should be half of that. Exactly.
No, because they have all the other ones up top.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it's adding $427.50 to each request from Northfield and Tilton.
So what's the total from?
$128,480.50.
So $128,480.50. It's a big number, so let's just put it out there. We did budget for a 2.5% increase on our payroll. The trustees decided to do that, so that it was an option if at all possible. There was not a raise given last year, and because we weren't fully funded by Northfield, and also because I used up some of my hours earlier in the year. We did have to cut some of our staffing hours, so we currently only have one page in the evening halftime, and that's usually a local high school student who helps us by putting books and other items away and helping us out with some of our projects. And I had to cut some hours from our later evening programs hours.
Do you have the numbers of the Tilton versus Northfield people who go there?
I have last year's numbers. I don't have this year's numbers. It's, hold on one second, I'll tell you what last year's numbers were. They're very, very similar. I just didn't have the actual. I may have left that one on my desk, but it's right around 2,000 for each town. I believe last year it was 2,300 for Northfield and something like 1,800 for Tilton. It's a pretty small amount. I thought it was more like a $300 person difference. So it's about equal. We do also have non-resident people who pay for cards, and we have cards for people in Sandmerton, for the kids who are part of the Winnisquam Regional School System, and for staff members of the school system also. So some of them are from other places rather than just Tilton and Northfield.
One of the things that I enjoy in the library is it's a library. It looks like a traditional library. It sounds like a traditional library. I love it when I go over. Used to walk over, now that's gone out the road. There are children sitting in the corners, in little nooks and crannies with books. People at the tables. So it's very, very well used by everybody. And I challenge anybody to go over and take a look at the library, because the interior is just amazing. One of the things I love is the sound of a library. And I'm just said, when you put something on the table, you have that sound that it's a library. It just amazes me. The second thing that amazes me is the interaction that you've had with the Union Sanborn School. I was over there the other day, and I was looking out my car window, and a whole group of children came across and were putting rocks under the bushes.
They're doing the Kindness Rocks program.
Right, and I was just boggled my mind. What are they doing? You know? And so there was never really that good connection.
Well, most of the kids at some point throughout the school year come over for a tour, like a field trip across the way, and we try to introduce them to the library and you know, because we are right there, so just make it sort of an easy outing, and it's good for them, it's good for us. And we are trying to do more outreach. Tomorrow, Brittany Moore, who is the young adult librarian, and I are going to the middle school for lunch.
Yes.
So that we're going to offer books for checkout. We're going to sign kids up for cards, and I'm probably going to sweat a lot. There's just a bunch of middle school students. But they've been really receptive to having us come in, and the high school too, so we're working to do a lot more outreach that way too. It is hard to get in and out around lunchtime because of staffing, but it's just something we're going to try to
I
attempt.
do have a suggestion. A picnic table.
Out front?
Out front.
We do have the new, well, new in the last couple of years, bench that is underneath the tree in the garden area. I think we've talked about it in the past. There's some concern that it might be vandalized, so you know, we just have that one flat area, but we could definitely look into it.
Yeah, because during the summer, for a lot of us adults like myself, like to sit out in the sunshine, and there's enough of a Wi-Fi signal that you can sit and do work, and it's just a beautiful sight all through there. But never we're having lunch and reading a magazine.
We do have a lot of people who sit in their cars and use their Wi-Fi. You can see them at all times of the day. Our internet is open, our Wi-Fi is open, and it's available 24 hours a day. We did have to, we were eligible for the free MetroCast internet, so we were getting that, but we were running into problems after school. I think that's why we're over so much on our technology area, because the trustees did decide to go ahead and bump that up to the next level, so it did add quite a bit of money. And we also added another computer to our stations, but on that first page you can see our computer usage. We're up to 10,270, that was last year, individual usages for our 30-minute computer sessions, and we're seeing more and more people who come in, and there's like that huge digital divide. People don't have internet at home, they don't have cable at home. We do lend out a tremendous number of DVDs, and people are on the computer constantly and using their Wi-Fi. Kids are charging their Chromebooks at the library often after school,
Yes.
because sometimes they can at home. It's not always available at school. So that when you think about, you know, the library, we do offer a whole lot more than just the quantitative numbers. And so people sitting in their cars for Wi-Fi is one of our...
We have to, it's a challenge some days for us older folks. Go there because you have the knitting club going, the sewing circle,
Tuesdays.
and you're trying to get to the computer or using the computer, and don't
Parking.
disrupt the sewing club. Don't disrupt the sewing club.
Or the chess club.
I learned that quickly. Don't disrupt them. Or the knitting club.
One of my questions was what you were doing to increase your library use, because we are spending a lot of money, and we just talked before you came in here about the increase in taxes this next year and what it's going to do to the town of Tilton and the residents. As our resident population ages, that's a real concern of ours, and we have to think, you know, very seriously about that. And you said you were going to be going to the middle school, and I applaud you for doing that. But you also brought up the use of the computers and the Wi-Fi. And I'm one of those who loves to have a hard copy of a book in my hand. I'm old generation. That's not the way, you know, when they come in with their Chromebook or, you know, and I've even changed to that technology too. You know, I carry my cell phone around like it's, and I'm the one who sits at dinner like this, and I think, oh my God, my mother would turn over in the grave. But that's the wave of the future, whether we want to recognize that or not. How are you adjusting to that? What are your plans? You said that you've already added one more computer station. It would seem to me, if you want to move ahead with the generation that's coming along, that you need to start thinking along those lines. And what are your plans to address that issue?
Well, there's definitely, we serve so many different people in our community. We serve the very young who are just learning to read. We serve the people who love books. We serve the people who don't read books at all but come in to use our services, and we also started a book group at the senior center this past year. I don't think libraries as a whole have really decided where they are going per se. I know that in the school system there's a huge push for this, it's called the 21st Century Library, and they've had their library redone, and there's very few books in there, but studies are showing that more and more kids, especially the millennials, they're kind of causing a resurgence in the use of libraries because they don't really have money to buy things, to buy books, and they don't always have money for the technology and things like that. So I think there will always be a place for for a hardcover book, because that's what people want. We don't have any plans set in stone. There is, in the library world, a general move towards a maker movement, where you put in a maker space into your library, which can include things like a vinyl cutting machine and
3D printer.
a 3D printer and tools and things like that. And so we have, the state library was given a grant, and we have access now twice a year to a 3D printer, which is pretty fantastic. And we would eventually like to have one of those. We are running into some space constraints though, because if we want to keep the traditional items that we have, and then the space doesn't really work out. And there might be some things going forward that we would have to do for that. So we can't fully go forward with that per se, but we can offer like toolboxes that people can check out, and because sometimes you just need a drill, but you might not be able to buy one at Lowe's, and you could borrow it from the library, and that's an example of a makerspace. But it can be as little as having crafts out, like a craft station for the kids, so that they can go and make something. So there's some of that may be coming down the line. We also have seen a huge uptick in the amount of audiobooks that we're giving out to people. So we started electronic cards, so people can apply online, and we check the tax rolls, or make sure that they're working for the school or going with the school, and we can get them a card online, so they don't have to. Well, they have to prove their residency usually, but it's usually for people who own property. But that way they don't have to come in, and they can use our electronic components. So audiobooks from New Hampshire Downloadables, or ebooks from New Hampshire Downloadables. And we're trying to push those out to the kids too, because the schools don't necessarily have a full solution to ebooks. And ebooks are really awesome. I don't know if any of you have a Kindle. I have one. I like a book too, but like when you're traveling, a Kindle is fantastic on your phone. And but digital rights management is a big issue, and it's very, very, very expensive to buy electronic books. So we belong to the consortium with the state, and we're trying to make sure that that's something that we work with and fully fund. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes next 10 to 15 years, but I can't necessarily say that we have a hard, definitive plan for all of those.
Has there been any thought given or any discussions about regionalization? I mean, that's a movement for a lot of things, and I know I go in on Belmont's website, and I know a lot of people who go to the Belmont, even though they are Tilton residents, go to the library in Belmont because of services they offer. And I mean, is there any thought to regionalization?
No, not that I'm aware of.
We
I
all
don't think-
regionalized. Tilton Northfield Library, that is regionalization.
Yeah,
It
but I'm
is.
talking about
Expanding.
Belmont, expanding.
Yeah,
it.
I think, in the past I've approached Samberton about sharing staff members, and if we hired somebody full-time, we could share a staff member, and, maybe that they could, do half the benefits and we could, but, it's hard.
I know there have been some reductions in the Tilton school library, for instance, in
Yeah.
the last few years. So that's why I was thinking along those lines.
Well, I'm not sure about the schools. I think part of the problem with regionalization is it would be fantastic. Connecticut, you can go, if you're a resident in the state of Connecticut, you can go to any library. Your card at one library is good at another, but it's also really state supported. In New Hampshire, people are really like, that's my library. My mother and my grandmother went to that library when it was small and dingy and dark, and now it's this big. And so people are very, I'm not sure what, I need a word for that. Protective, possessive. They have a lot of ownership about that. I think it's something that.
But the bottom line is that you have nowhere to grow.
Oh yeah, no, we don't.
And that as a resident concerns me. That what can you offer for services in the future when you have no space to grow in? It's so crowded now.
That was my question, because until you get to the university level, you don't get that teaching. You don't get that consortium that we have. The second piece is, for the committee, where you're at right now cannot be physically expanded upon by deed, I believe.
It's, well, I don't think there's any room to expand, but it's deeded
The
that,
lot is,
it,
the lot is the lot,
it's,
basically. what
yeah,
it
and
is,
it's
where it
deeded that
says.
if it's anything other than Hall Memorial Library, it has to go back to the
Yeah,
descendants of
a lot of things in
But
North
you
River
cannot
like that.
expand physically
No, no.
that library. So what you've got for space,
If you try to park there on a Wednesday morning or Tuesday morning or Friday after, I mean, there are certain times when we do have to borrow parking from other places, and so even that is an issue.
well, if you listen to the school, they're going to give you Union Sanborn.
I don't think that's
Well, I'm not sure I would want another old building to
I
be in
was
charge
gonna say,
of.
you've got your own cross to bear there.
I hear it's going to be sold real cheap. No comment, right, Jane?
I was gonna say, depends on who you talk to. Talk to the selectmen in Northfield, I don't think so, but.
So there's no easy answer to that. We are part of a consortium in the Lakes region for, it's called the Scrooge and Marley Consortium, where we get together and we share a DVD co-op. It was more popular in the 90s when DVDs were so expensive and you know, we kind of all get together and they cycle around and those go out a lot. So it's, you know, it's $50 a year and it's worth it. But it's more of an educational and a peer group sharing. And then we have the consortium for the 3D printer, which is so awesome to see people
It
see.
is.
But
A question around your computer usage. Is there a specific bandwidth that you're paying for right now? And if you were to expand services for the more electronics components, would that cost more money down the road?
So we had the like personal home level, and we bumped up to the business level. And instead of paying $100, they do give us a $50 a month discount. Probably we could increase that, and we could increase like the Wi-Fi speed if we had to, by paying MetroCast more money to
Right.
increase the bandwidth. Because if I'm not sure if you've been using your computer there this week, but because we have so many people there using so many devices, it has been very, very slow. It's kind of an anomaly the last 3 days, but you know, it will over time
Right.
get even more slower. I think the problem is going to come down to staffing. We currently have Brittany, who is our young adult librarian. She's our cataloger. She's our technology librarian, and she works the circulation desk, and she does all of that in 40 hours, and she does a fantastic job at it. But it's not a sustainable thing long term if we're going to keep adding more and more technology. We've got a great staff, and we do fantastic things with what we have, but we would really greatly benefit the community in a much bigger way if we had more staff. You know, we could do more outreach. It's hard to, there's 2 of us going to the schools tomorrow. We have to pay to have a substitute come in, and it's hard to get somebody to do that. We have, you know, when Maggie does the book group at the senior center, it's hard to make sure that there's coverage in the building because we like to have at least 2 people there, 2 people who are 18 and older. So, you know, could we do it if the sky was the limit money-wise? Yes. I think right now we're limited.
But you've also been very lucky, because with the computers you've had, you really haven't had a bad crash.
No, and we invested. Yeah, thanks. If you jinxed us, I'm going to be upset. But we 2 years ago we invested in a program called Userful. So we don't have actual computer stations, computers like a desktop or a laptop. We have these little, what are they, Linux systems that it's like a little Raspberry Pi kind of thing that sits there, and they connect to
The
a
technical
monitor.
term, Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the name of a small computer. Anyhow, and it's all powered out of one server in our basement, and that has made a huge difference because we don't have individual things, and that, that did free up some of Brittany's time.
All right. Okay. Any other questions?
I have
Sure.
a couple, just out
Yeah.
of curiosity.
Yeah.
What is the speed that you're currently getting on the internet? Like at home, I get 156 megabits, which I think is the highest you can get at home.
I don't know.
Okay.
Look it up.
I would have to look it up.
I think you'll, if you look at your MetroCast, it will tell you.
Yeah,
Find out.
we'll have to look.
That's all right. And the next one was on the DVDs. Do you rely on donations? Do you purchase?
Well, we are very fortunate. We receive a ton of donations, and for all of the ones that we can use, we do add them to our collection. And then we keep a lot of them in reserve for duplicates because, they get used very hard. But we purchase a large number of our DVDs.
What ratings do you take in donations?
Oh, we take all of them. Well, I mean, I don't think we take X.
No, that's
Although I've gotten some interesting books before. But they're not on our shelves, you know what I mean?
You've done your home shelf, right?
Yeah, but we don't, we don't prohibit anybody from taking any ratings out.
Not restricted.
We're not restricted, yeah. So we have horror movies and we have, hard Rs, and then we have a whole section of kids stuff. So it's really across the way.
And the system I like because it's more of a scrapbook system, where your DVDs are actually behind the circulation desk.
Well, to be honest with you, I hate it because it's really labor intensive. But because everything walks away, including our toilet paper, we have special toilet paper rolls because it gets stolen. We keep all of our discs behind the desk in binders. So when you come to our library and check out a DVD, you bring up an empty case, we fill it from the binders behind the desk, and then you can leave with it. It would be nice to have a security system, but they're...
But it also gives you control. So you know if the 13-year-old's coming up for the hard R, you can say...
We do not parent. No, we
You don't monitor.
We don't restrict anybody for taking hard Rs or horror movies, or and that's not to say that there aren't some kids that we get to know our patrons really well. When you're missing for a while, you kind of worry. But so there are some kids who are like, "Does your mom know you're taking this out?" But it's not our place to judge, really.
Okay.
So.
All right, Christine, any questions? Wayne?
I'm all set, thank you.
Joe?
I defer to John right now.
A couple things. Okay, let's talk some money here.
Okay.
And you're doing a great job with everything. It's a fun place to be. Gotta get some money here.
Yeah.
Ground maintenance, why is it at $8?
Why is it what?
$8.
You spent $8 this year, and yet you're asking for $22.50.
Oh, plowing. That's mostly our plowing. So, I defer to this one on that one. I'm not sure.
We haven't gotten a bill from the school district yet for the plowing, that they do the plowing, right?
I remember Northfield used to do it, and they don't do it for them anymore.
So we split it with the school.
So the school will send us a bill and we'll pay the school once they send it to us.
Now, that's new this year, right?
No, that's been
Last
a few
year?
years.
Last couple of years, last few years.
It's been since before I started.
But the ground maintenance is solely just snow plowing?
Snow plowing, and I think, if I remember correctly, this $8 was ice melt, to do.
Who mows the lawn and
sidewalks.
takes care of the trees and the bushes?
We have a 10-hour-a-week handyman, Scott Tedford, out of Northfield. He's fantastic. He actually does a lot more than 10 hours usually, but he cleans the building, he does all the grounds maintenance, and then, it's not like our grounds are super pretty, so we haven't put a lot of money into all of them, but the Tilton School helps us with spring cleanup, and honestly, I do a lot of it too.
And
I trim
he's
all
one of
the
the
trees this year.
few people that works for the library that's out there with a scoop, getting rid of snow
Yeah.
before the kids come running
He
through.
does a lot of our snows. Yeah, he does all of our snow stuff. And vacuums too.
Looking at the the numbers on the income from town of Northfield. We have a budget of $123,950 in 2017, but Tilton was $127,208. What was the difference there?
Well, we asked both towns for 127,208, and Tilton gave us that, and Northfield didn't. So,
$3,500 or whatever it was.
so
They kept it the same as the
The
plan.
year
yeah, it was
before.
the previous year, yeah. So,
Basically where we
Yeah.
had raises.
yeah.
Okay, and sort of on a minor, but with your Wi-Fi and that, I don't know if you have spoken to MetroCast that they set up their own free Wi-Fi hotspot there. MetroCast offers a free Wi-Fi hotspots in the community in different locations
Oh, I didn't know
for their
that.
subscribers to use. And they have it on their website and everything like that. So that could actually relieve you of some of the burden on your system if we could get MetroCast to put a community free Wi-Fi hotspot.
So it's called a community Wi-Fi spot?
Yeah,
Hotspot.
and that's for their subscribers that they can use.
Oh, so if I have MetroCast at home and I'm out and about, I could log into,
If you know where the hotspots that
oh,
MetroCast has, and then you can advertise, yeah, we have a
That would be
MetroCast
really great.
hotspot there, which might take some of your,
yeah.
and if you can encourage people how to sign on to it,
I will-
like the kids have, I'm sure.
I will,
So,
All about
MetroCast
that
is changing
tomorrow.
companies, so this might be a real good time to,
who are they changing to?
They were purchased by
Being
somebody.
sold.
they were purchased, and I think it starts in January.
Okay.
This would be a real good time to, when the change is coming about.
Yeah.
if you go to the Tilton website, I think it's still there. There's a name of the general manager who came in before us to sign the agreement with the new contract with the new company.
I got his name at home too,
And
if you
he
can't find it.
offered to help us, anybody in our community with any problems they have whatsoever. And we have his own personal cell phone number.
On the website?
I think it's still on the website.
think so, too.
Or
But
Pat,
I
or Jim
have,
can
I
get
have it, yeah, I
think I
have
have
it.
it somewhere.
And I've actually had to call him about something, and he was very responsive, so.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, I'll make the phone call tomorrow.
Okay.
Because it is.
That might help
there's
you
a-
save some money.
Yeah, and there's a
on-
very pressing need for it, on especially in the last 3 days, but it is all the time.
And when he came in here, he was really hit hard by the lack of response that MetroCast had done in the past, so he really wants to make a good impression. So if you could say, gee, if you really want to impact the
impression.
community, this is what you could do.
Yeah, especially after this week, they're doing it back.
Yeah.
How's the heating system doing?
And here's a little secret. You'll get better for this
Another knock on
protection.
wood.
Hanging in
If they
there?
have a hotspot, that's where they tend to flock together to use their own devices.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you'll find a lot of your Northfield PD out there at the hotspot.
I feel like they're around anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude.
So our heating system right now is doing fantastic. Our air conditioners are, everything's new because we had this addition in 2001, but that was in 2001, so everything is kind of aging. We have one air conditioner that we're kind of limping through. There was some talk for a while about switching our heating system over to gas, but it was going to cost a lot more money than we had in our reserves, so we've kind of put that off, and knock on wood, it's been okay. It is unfortunately a system it just seems like it's too much for the library that we have. In order for us to change the temperature in the library, I have to call someone to come in and do it because we don't have an interface. And in order to get one, it would be in the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because it's set through a computer and some sort of system. I don't know, the guy who came, he comes all the time, his name's Bobby, he's out of Alexandria. I feel like I've really gotten to know him because they're often But he comes out usually twice a year for a couple of hours at $90 an hour each time in order to switch it to like our summer temperature. So if you come into the library and our heat's on at the circulation desk right now, it's very, very warm. And I just haven't called him to come in yet to adjust it. But we also had a bit of a sprinkler issue over the winter where, let's see, how do I just,
There was a water,
yeah.
wasn't a leak, it set off the alarms
Yeah.
and the police and the fire.
Our circulator pump went. Our circulator pump went and it steamed up the room and it set off the sprinkler in our furnace room. So all of the circulators were replaced. And that seems to have made it a bit more efficient. So that part's good. And the furnace part seems to be okay. It's just sort of dialing it in now that, and then working on the air conditioner.
Was the MetroCast guy Edward Merrill? Okay, we've got the number then.
Okay. Kathy, she's a fantastic resource.
Joking, Finn. You must have some more.
Yeah, I do. I loved the library when I was a kid, when I was in school, books, periodicals, newspapers. When did the mission of the library, and you gotta understand, I've been out of libraries, kind of, although I do have a card for over there, I have used the facilities. When did it become something other than books? Because it sounds to me like we're doing a lot of stuff over there that isn't necessarily books.
Well,
Letting out drills. I mean, when you say that, I would say, well, wait a minute. If the library is about books, we've gotten, it costs, your appropriation means that every man, woman, and child in Tilton would be paying $35 for the library.
Mm-hmm.
So a family of four is, help me out, $140 is their share of the Tilton Hall Memorial Library, and it may or may not be quite as expensive over there because they have more people, so on a per capita basis, right? But that's a lot of money. And as Jane stated earlier, we got an aging population that's having trouble paying taxes now. $35 a person is a pretty steep price. Do you feel like that? Are you a resident of this area?
I live in Hill, so
Okay, well,
but
it's
I've
not a taxpayer.
I grew up in Meredith, and I own property in Laconia, and I live in Hill now. So I'm really familiar with the demographic. I can't necessarily say when it changed. I think it slowly changed over time to a place where you can get access to just books and other information in the written form, to being a place where you get information of all sorts. Honestly, I think the less money that the government in general puts into human services, the more libraries have to pick that up. But we also have to stay relevant. And so for a community that, you know, where $35 is a lot of money, and you can't afford, you know, you can't afford the money for internet and cable and phone, you know, and you have to make some decisions between that and your medication for the month. For that $35 a year, we can provide those services. And so I think actually I know that taxes are really high, and I do really understand that, even if I'm not a resident. But I think that the citizens of town, if they utilize our library, are getting a huge return on their money. Just especially if you look, you're talking about your aging population, if you look at people who need audiobooks or large print books, because they are aging and maybe have vision problems, those are way more expensive than if you were to purchase just a plain old book at a regular store. So if you didn't have access to that, or access to using the ebooks and the audiobooks on your phone or a device, then you're going to pay between $36 and $50 for each one of those items that you want to get. That because they're so expensive to produce. So that I feel like we're giving a lot in return for the $35 per person. But I do understand for a family of four.
I have no problem with books. It's a library. I support libraries. Unlimited bandwidth and craft stuff for the kiddies, and I'm not even disputing that those are all good things, because they are good things. I'm clenched up when it comes to $35 a person.
I would hate to think of the library as just being a place for books. I
Right.
think it's a community
It
center.
used to be.
And it's pulling in people of all ages. You talked about seeing kids there. I see every age. And I see my husband, who doesn't like to read a whole lot, who's suddenly become a reader because of this library. And I see people on a committee that I'm on that the only way I can communicate with them is by email, because they go to the library and they don't have that at home. They can't afford that. And so the library is a godsend. for
I'm
a lot of
74
people.
years old, and my first experience in the library was when I was in the 6th grade, and I went to a class where they taught us to make dioramas, because I had to do it for a class I was in. So it was not just books when I was growing up. That was 74 years ago, in a tiny little town in Kentucky. So
Some of it is a way to get people in and have them have access to books, but really, it's become more of a gathering place for people. Nancy Court, who's a Northfield resident, she said that a couple of years ago at the Northfield Select Board meeting, she said that since the post office went out, it's other than the park and go, it's really the only place in town where you see people from all walks of life, and all the kind of where you can hang out and talk to them and get to know them. But we do actually, in terms of talking about technology too, I help a significant number of people every month, and you'd be really surprised, who come in and have absolutely no idea how to use a computer at all. And usually it is people who are like 55 and older who have no idea how to use it.
your age, Joe.
Well,
Yeah, I'm 55 or older.
well, no, this is it's funny, but it's not funny because it's sort of sad. They're applying for jobs at Lowe's, at Home Depot, at Tractor Supply, and they have to have an email account, and they have to be able to log in and sign up. Nobody can. There aren't companies anymore that offer paper applications. It's all done online. You have to have an email account. So we spend a significant amount of time helping people with that part of the technology. We also have a lot of people whose kids have given them a device and been like, here's an iPad, you're going to love it, and then don't help them. And so in the last week alone, I've helped 5 people, 1 woman 3 times, but 5 people, update their iPads and things like that. And so I think we've just become so much more than that.
2 points before I lose my voice. One is, I'm a great believer that learning doesn't have to be in the printed form. Learning can happen, you're a mechanic, like a good worker. A lot of your stuff learned practical experience. And someone taking you by the hand and saying, this is what you need to do. This is how you do it. That's what happens in the library. That mentoring goes on, education. And I'd ask this board, if the library's not doing it, who is? Is the Recreation Department doing that? Or is the Education Department, which we spend how many $1 million a year?
25-ish.
Doing it? So I would say it's a pretty good deal considering those 2 other options.
And that's why I asked you.
We're paying for them too and not getting services from them.
That's right, but we do it with a smile.
But this is not about the school, this is about the library. How many individuals do you have employed at the library?
We employ 2 full-time people, myself included, and 6 part-timers. 4 of them work 10 or less hours, and then our handyman, who's 10 hours a week.
So,
And Joe, I have to back up. What did you say to me? That this was not the library?
say what?
I thought I heard something that I took as being not appropriate.
I missed
No,
it.
I don't think so.
I
I
don't
didn't
think
hear
I said anything
no.
inappropriate, but if I did and I've offended you, Wayne, I certainly apologize. We can discuss it afterwards,
Right, I was just-
certainly.
I'm just-
I'd like to know.
No,
Oh, something about, yeah, this isn't about the school, this is about the library, and that's not inappropriate, because this is about, this conversation about the library.
Money comes from all pots. Tax rate comes from different pots.
Okay, let's-
If we're taking a look at that,
Wayne,
let's
I'm
do-
talking
let's
to her
wait-
about the
wait a minute.
library budget.
he asked a question, so let's move on.
Okay, so we were talking about the amount of employees for $200,000 a year, between wages and insurance and retirement and what have you. $200,000 out of $256,000 is in employees. Okay, is that just seems a little high, maybe? I don't know, I don't see what you do every day and whatnot.
No,
but-
I mean, I guess there's 2 ways of looking at it. Is it a little high? I don't think it's a little high. I think actually we are probably underpaid, truthfully, especially for the level of expectations that my staff has. Brittany, who's the young adult librarian, she does that and cataloging at our technology, and she works circulation desk. She makes 16 something an hour, but she's been there since it's either her 8th or 9th year, so she's got some significant time put into it.
That's not excessive, and I don't mean to say that. I just wanted to have little bits of explanation, because
No.
I don't attend the trustees and whatnot, and
Yeah,
so that's why I'm asking.
and I'm not sure how it relates to other parts of the town and what they get paid. But we do I find it very hard to find people who are willing to come in and work part-time, because we do pay our part-timers about $10 an hour. So it's hard to find people who are qualified and who are gonna stay for a long amount of time to do the job and fit in well.
I don't think a lot of people understand the educational requirements for somebody in library science. I think that's a very big misunderstanding with most people.
Admittedly, I am the only one at our library who has a master's degree in library science, so technically I'm supposed to be the only one who's called a librarian. But the 3 so Brittany is our second full-time person, and then we have 2 people who work about 26, one works 26 hours a week, that's our children's librarian, and Maggie does a whole bunch of other things like publicity and interlibrary loans, and she works 34 hours a week. And they have bachelor's degrees, but they don't have library science degrees and a master's in library science. So I call them librarians anyway, because they've got more than plenty of experience. But in the library world in general, you wouldn't necessarily call them librarians. So yes, you're gonna have a big level of education. So, I'm 42, I'm still paying it off, and it's been worth every cent for me, because this truly, minus meetings like this, because they make me very nervous, is my dream job. It's what I went to school to do, and what I really wanted to do when I moved back to New Hampshire. But, it's really hard, because I want to be able to have people who can, who don't need a partner to be able to afford their apartment, who makes a living wage and can support their 3 kids on their own. So it's kind of hard to keep people when we pay them what we do, and yet it really is a significant amount of money.
Right. What is the hourly rates at this point in time for employment and the benefits that your employees are receiving?
Okay, so our two, so myself and Brittany, we're the full-time people. We're the only ones who receive medical, dental, and retirement. I make somewhere around $51,000 a year. Brittany makes about 36,000, I think, right?
I think that's about right,
It's
yeah.
about 16 something.
Just looking at that.
Maggie started at the same time as Brittany. She makes like 10 cents less an hour, but it's in the $16.35 an hour range. Our children's librarian, Julie, she makes 14 something an hour. Our circulation assistants, they make $10 an hour. Our 10-hour-a-week handyman makes $14.35 an hour. And our one page right now, she makes the minimum wage.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that, you know, I was doing some of the numbers between Tilton and Northfield. It's kind of disconcerting that you can't get Northfield to kick in a little more. Where we're going in at the $35 per person rate, Northfield only went in last year $25, and then on top of that, because they didn't fully fund it, they only paid in at $23. So we're paying an additional $12 per person per capita for getting in there. Seeing we're approaching the budget season and we're going to have the town meetings. Were you guys able to attend Northfield town meeting last year and rally something together, or can you do that this year?
Stephanie will be there.
Unfortunately, we were not able to attend last year. And, you know, I can't.
I was there.
I'm not a member. I don't live in town, so I can't stand up and do it. But
You can't.
You can address the group.
But we have, yes, I can, but we have thought of that for this year.
I think that's really
You need a
super
champion.
important.
Yeah.
And you can
We have-
address the group. You can ask permission and talk to the moderator ahead of time, and you know, and show some of the points that you've brought up here and things, and how important it is. Because it seems like what will happen is Tilton's going, if they level fund it again, Tilton's going to, your bills things are going to fall behind, and the burden on Tilton's going to increase to a point where our voters might say no, and then it will make it worse. So just
It is,
heads up to start now.
It is a politically painful kind of thing to,
Two towns, it's tough.
but we have discussed it and hopefully have a plan going forward.
I'm sure you have a good following in Northfield patrons that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't catch it last year. Like, I didn't look at the budget line by line to catch that we were funding, or else I probably would have said, hey, I need some backup.
But this-
Nancy was there too, so
Yeah.
I was gonna kind of like,
But this is our second
Good
year
flank.
together.
yeah, this is only my second year
So
doing
The
this.
more
so-
people, and the more people you bring, the better,
Yes.
okay?
Generally speaking, like, there's no reason for me to be nervous about things like this. Everybody's normally very receptive to the library, but, you know, it is hard to kind of ask the two separate towns to do things and then find a way to, you know, hold everybody, not accountable, but, you know, try to hold everybody to the same standard. But we do have very dedicated patrons from both towns, and, you know, it's so very appreciated. Because it really makes it really a truly, you know, a community place to go, where we do care about our patrons.
So, you know, after looking at those numbers, and then if they increase, it could be pretty devastating to you guys. So it'd be important to start rallying the troops, and it's just to get the word out. It's not a big political thing. It's to get them out there and make people aware when they go to the town meeting of all these things, so that you get good representation there. The budget committee, we just represent the voters, so
Yeah.
we're kind of doing what we would feel that they would want for us to do for them. So the budget committee in Northfield is going to be doing what they feel that the voters want to do for them. So you can go and help out with that. Just tips.
Thank you.
And use your secret weapon. The sewing club and the knitting club. Bring them with you. They will drive the select board crazy, so do it.
Knitting needles.
Yes.
Yeah, having their knitting needles as they speak. And I do understand what your mission is. That's why I asked the question, what are you doing to increase the library use in this day and age? Because I know it's not a place of books, just for books. You know, and I think it's important to look to the future as to what you're going to do to keep getting patrons there to do more than touch a book. You know, so, you know, there are people who do appreciate that, I think, in the town of Tilton.
I like books.
And Joe does too. I'm only giving him a
I go
hard.
to
But
the
he's,
library.
remember, he's in that age group of over 55. So
That's right. 55 or
Well,
older.
come on down and I'll show you how to update your iPad. I started Tech Tuesdays because
you'll have to get him an
my dad
iPad
was-
first.
Oh.
Arthur, do you have any?
No, I don't have
All right. Well, thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
time. And we didn't mean to put you through the ringer, but Kathy, you know we love you.
And I'm going to call Edward Merrill tomorrow because I think that's fantastic.
Yep.
I'm going to almost watch this.
You're going to what? Go to Las Vegas?
World Series.
Oh, apparently I'm going to get a hearing aid too.
You can get that at the library from what I understand. They have wonderful devices.
Make it out of a 3D printer.
We do a lot of things I can probably.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
All right.
I have a question before we adjourn.
What?
Can we go over who we already voted on already? So I can check it out.
Yeah. You want to read us? We voted on. We didn't vote on that one. No.
We did the
Who did
blind.
we already vote on?
The blind.
The blind. It's not the blind anymore. I keep
Old Home Day.
First sight.
What is Old Home Day?
Old Home Day.
Island, didn't we?
Island concert.
Did we vote Island? I'm not sure if we did. I think we postponed.
Did we vote on Island
No,
concert?
I don't think we did.
I think we postponed it
They were
by
here
1
last
week.
week.
So we
I make a motion to fund Island concert for $2,000.
Second.
Discussion?
Is that the request?
Yeah.
Yes.
No further questions from me.
All in favor?
Yes?
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Those are the only ones I think we voted on. We voted to not fund those.
No, yeah, we didn't vote on it because you, oh yeah, did we vote on that? Yeah. I-
What?
Genesis we voted
Genesis,
on.
you did
Genesis
today.
we voted on.
Right. Gus is coming back in, Cap is coming
Cap's
in.
coming in, and New Beginnings is coming in.
So those three,
And
it's
Red
almost
Cross.
like
So we
level
didn't,
funded.
we didn't fund them, but.
No, we
because they
increased-
No, I mean, the
show
ones
up.
we already voted on.
We
So we'll
increased
have
the site one by $500
Yeah.
over last year.
Yeah.
So it's, oh, because 2,000. okay.
Yeah. All right, we have any other business? By the way, Tim said that the October report, financial report, will be here very soon, so we'll wait till we get that, and we'll discuss that at the next meeting.
Like the next
So,
couple of
the
minutes
next,
soon? The next
well,
couple of
no,
minutes.
but
Oh, all right.
hopefully by next Wednesday,
I see, okay.
and we'll discuss it then, okay?
Yeah.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed?
Let us go home, which,
Think back down the road, you're drinking coffee here.
oh, I'm not. It's against my heart.
My heart not to
The chocolate.
It was.
We only live once.
It wasn't wine.
That's all I wanted to do.
I had enough carbohydrates in me this
Drink it up, Jason.
Suck it up.
Sugar.
That's all that's keeping you going, is all the coffee you drink?
Oh, my doctor told me.